Okay, this is the second video here. We are working on the Ford 8N tractor, and in one of my previous videos we took the steering box out of it, and I found a guy in Indiana that was able to, he rebuilds the Ford 8N steering boxes, and this is not the steering box that I had before. This is a different steering box. He rebuilt this one for me, but I basically did a trade for him, and he gave me a real good price on it. This was a good unit that he took and he rebuilt himself. So we're going to put this back on the tractor here, and he painted it up red for me. I know the rest of my tractor is pretty much blue, but it's actually switching back to red with all the different things that we've done here. So I got this steering box. It runs nice and smooth, and hopefully this will get us going and back on the road with this tractor. So we're gonna start putting things back together. So I got the dash panel to sit down on there properly, and now I'm going to get the choke rod. I may have to hold this up a little bit to get this choke rod inserted in here. It actually has to go through both parts of the dash. So there's the one spot. There's the other. Okay. That choke rod's in. While we're here, we might as well get this oil pressure line back in place. And I don't know if you can see it on the video down here. We're going to hook this throttle spring back up. We'll hook all these things back up down here. So we've got all that back where it needs to be. Go. So that will get the throttle hooked back up where it needs to be. I don't have any of the bolts in here yet. I just wanted to get things in place, make sure the rods and all that work, make sure all of our wiring's out of the way, and this wiring will have to run back across the other side. But we're getting there, getting closer. While I'm down here, I'm going to take the tachometer cable and put it on. This is all going to be a lot easier to do with all the things out of the way. Okay, and that just needs to be finger tight. That doesn't need to be super tight on there. And I'm going to see if I can turn the steering box. Get that arm back there. I don't know if that's even visible. There we go. Yeah, so down here I'm turning the steering box to realign those steering arms, and I probably should get a new boot for that. I'm going to go see if I have a new boot that'll fit on this thing. It just takes a rubber boot over that. If I don't, I'll put it back on for now. That's an easy one that I can do after I've got the tractor all back together. If that doesn't work out, I can just throw a new boot on it later. I don't have to tear everything apart to get to that spot. So let me go check and see if I've got one. So I was not able to find another boot to go on there. I don't have anything laying around at the moment. So I'm going to put this nut back on the back here and snug that back down. For now, I can always remove this at a later date when I get another boot for that. I probably should have gone through and figured out what I needed and ordered those while this was apart, but I got busy. We had a lot of other things going on, and this tractor needs to get back together because we may need to plow snow with it soon. So I'm going to bolt that steering back up here. Okay. And then that's going to need a cotter pin to go through it so that doesn't come loose. So we'll get that figured out. We'll do the other side the same way and throw some cotter pins in there. And the steering should actually be back on there. I think I want to throw the steering wheel, just set it on there and make sure it steers properly. So I'm going to come up here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. So I'm going to just set the steering wheel on there. I don't know if I'll be able to do it with the... Yeah, I just want to set it on here. Look at that. That's going to steer real nice now. Nice and smooth. That's what I'm looking for. So I am going to pull the wheel back off until we get the dash piece bolted back to the hood area, because the steering wheel is probably going to be in the way for that. But let's get some other parts back together. Okay, so I'm going to try to get the hood back down in place on here. And that went real easy. That wasn't bad at all. Pretty much just drop right down in place in front of it. So there we go. Aligned over the radiator cap, but that's sitting down on there nice. I'm going to start putting bolts in around my dash here. I do want to get the grill bolts back in and that stuff. We can get the radiator cap back on and start putting accessories back on it. So under the hood area here, we have this wiring that we need to hook back up to the other side. We'll get that up and out of the way. We've got a couple of bolts here up in there that need to go back in. That'll need shifted up just a little bit to get that in. And then we're going to get our battery box back in with the through bolts that are there. And we'll get our toolbox back in place. And I did put the battery on the charger while I was working on this, and it wasn't holding as much charge as what I wanted it to. So I actually ran and got a brand new battery for this tractor, and we're going to be putting that in as well. I probably will save the old battery, and it still was holding a charge, but it just wasn't enough to start this thing easily. And it's really cold out right now. I want to make sure this tractor starts when I need it to start. So the other thing that we'll do under here, we need to make sure and tighten up that oil pressure line, because that would be a leaker if we didn't. Also underneath the steering area here, and I think I set it down over there, there's a spring and a washer retainer that goes down underneath that with a packing to keep the dust and the dirt out of this area. And then we'll put the steering wheel back in place on there as well. And then we need to hook up the fuel system down underneath here. We got to get that fuel line that we took off hooked back up to the fuel bowl right in this area. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'll get that started into that, and then we'll get that hooked back up, and then our fuel system will be okay. We can turn our fuel back on. I'm probably going to wait to do that until we're ready to start it here. But one of the things I did notice, and I don't know if you saw it in the video yet or not, when I hooked up my Pitman arm piece from the steering box down to our tie rod, as of right now, this front wheel is turned pretty significantly to the left. So let me take you around the other side here and show you what's going on. So on the other side, we've got our steering linkage hooked up properly, and this tire is driving straight. So what I'm looking at here is this adjustment, and you can see the threads there. I'm going to get in a little closer. You can see the threads. That's adjusted at the front and back, and that adjustment is turned almost all the way down. If we go back to the other side, this adjustment, you can see a whole bunch of threads there on both ends. Right here. Oops, I gotta get my hand closer to it so it focuses. So what that's saying to me is, if you guys go to actually rebuild one of these steering boxes, the hardest part of getting these steering boxes right is getting the arms on each side timed, which means that they're on the right gear. And so what this is telling me is I haven't made any adjustments to these tie rod ends here. I haven't made any adjustments at all. So what that's saying to me is my old steering box, the whole time I've been using this tractor, has not been timed properly. Because the guy who rebuilt this box, I trust him. I'm sure that he got that timed right. He's done quite a few of these boxes. So what that says to me is that that old steering box was not timed properly, which means before we can drive this tractor, we're going to have to take these bolts loose, and we're going to have to adjust that tie rod to get both of these wheels aligned left to right so they are pointing the same direction. So I did not expect that, but it looks like we had some trouble in the past and didn't even know it. So we're going to go from here and try to get some of these things straightened out.